It's that sound that we all know. What does the Steve say? What does the Steve say? Punch, 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 punch for punch. A punch, 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 punch for punch. A punch, 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 punch for punch. What does the Steve say? Money, money, money.
Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Thursday, June 4th, 2015. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 Plus, joined as always on Thursdays by Steve Wiltfong. Not surprisingly, Steve, on the road. I guess not so far out on the road considering you're in Indianapolis, but you're at a satellite camp for the Fighting Harbaughs right now. Give us a little update on where you stand currently.
Well, I'm at Indianapolis Bishop Chatard High School, one of the powers of the Midwest, multiple state championships here, and the camp starts here in about half hour, I believe, but, some good players are filing in, and, it'll be a good camp here for Michigan and Indianapolis.
It's about as subtle as we can make it, but let's talk about a team that actually has a chance to win some serious games this year, and that is the Ohio State Buckeyes and their recruiting efforts. Steve, you've been a man all over the crystal ball recently. Let's kind of take it from the top of your most recent crystal ball maneuvers and work our way back, and then we can talk about the camp you were at Ohio State this past weekend. Take us, kind of bring us up to speed on your crystal ball activity that you've registered here recently.
Well, my latest couple were Foggies, Prince Salmons, who Ohio State leads on the crystal ball. I'm not so sure he's going to end up in Columbus, not because of lack of interest, but just because, spots are filling up. If Ohio State did take Prince Salmons, I wouldn't be surprised if it was as an offensive lineman. But right now, I could see Prince ending up at Duke or Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, places like that. He's obviously taken in his time, hasn't even begun to narrow his list. Vanderbilt would be in there, schools like that. And then I went foggy on Craig Watts, but the reason why I went foggy on Craig Watts is because I put a crystal ball in on DeMar Hamlin, and I have Ohio State landing DeMar Hamlin and Jordan Fuller to round out their secondary in this class, and DeMar Hamlin was a crystal ball pick over the weekend. I'd been leaning towards the Buckeyes with DeMar. Anyway, I hadn't put in a crystal ball for the top 247 cornerback from Pennsylvania, but been hearing and written a couple of times that I think that DeMar is favoring Ohio State right now. He just narrowed his list to a top 10. I think it's really a top 3 or 4. He's going to take some visits, so no rush to decide, but definitely like where Ohio State stands with DeMar Hamlin. Really like where Ohio State stands with Jordan Fuller. I think they're the team to beat going into the summer for Jordan Fuller, the outstanding top 100 corner from New Jersey. And so those are some of the latest crystal balls, and obviously I still have some of the old ones that I'm not anywhere close to changing. Nick Bosa, the defensive end from Florida. I think that it's only a matter of time before he's in the class. I know I said that recently, but that was the scuttlebutt from talking to some of my colleagues in the network that he could be close to pulling the trigger now that the spring evaluation period's over and all the coaches are done coming through looking at him and his teammates. I think that he could be a Buckeye sooner rather than later.
I want to go back to one of the guys you touched on just a little bit more because we haven't talked about him quite as much as maybe we should have, and that's Jordan Fuller. What do you think of him as a prospect? Where do you see him playing position-wise at this level, at the college level?
Well, I think he's elite. I think that he could be a 5-star. I mean, he ran a 4.51 at the Oakland Nike camp. I was out there. He's he's a specimen for a defensive back. He can run. He's athletic. He's a fluid athlete. He can flip his hips. He covered some of the top some of the top receivers in the country, including Theo Howard, the speedster from California who's committed to Oregon. He had no problem matching up with him in Oakland at the Nike camp. So I just think he's special. He's a good kid, smart kid, plays a bunch of positions in high school. So I really like guys like that.
Speaking of guys you like, Steve, you were in Columbus this past weekend for the opening tryouts, the regional. Also got to see some other Ohio State prospects work out and some Ohio State commitments. Kind of bring us up to speed on what you thought of the past weekend and maybe some Ohio State guys that jumped out at you.
Yeah, well, DeMario McCall certainly in the mix for being the nation's top running back. I think that he's an elite player. He's a playmaker. He'll be exciting. He'll be tough to keep off the field as a true freshman. I know Ohio State's got a lot of playmakers, and You even got playmakers that haven't played yet, but I think he's a guy that's going to bring a dynamic element that could get him some touches as a true freshman. He's got some serious swagger to his game. He can run, but his from 0 to 10 is his talent. He can get to that top end speed in a hurry and just accelerate from people quickly. So he's a guy that I really like. Jonathan Cooper continues to get bigger, and he's always had that burst off the edge, earned his offer at Ohio State's Friday Night Lights camp, and obviously didn't take too long to jump on it. They were the team to beat before they offered. So Jonathan Cooper had a really good camp. We named him the top defensive player at the camp overall. So those are two Buckeyes commits that really stood out. Jake Hossman, he is what we always thought he was. He's a guy that can be a difference maker in the passing game. He's got some after-the-catch ability. But Luke Farrell, I don't notice much of a difference between Jake and Luke, to be quite honest with you. And Luke Farrell is obviously uncommitted. My crystal ball says Ohio State for Luke Farrell, but Luke Farrell taking the time. I'm not saying he's not going to end up at Ohio State, but he's certainly evaluating those other schools. Going to go back up to Michigan State for a 2-day trip here in June. Wants to get back to Notre Dame, so he'll check out the Irish, so I don't know where Luke Farrell's going to end up, but I think he's a complete tight end that can get dirty and block, and then he also made a lot of plays as a receiver at the opening regional. So just spewing names. Michael Jordan, he had some really dominant reps in the O-line, D-line portion there, and so those are guys that that stand here and pace back and forth. I remember performing pretty well.
One guy who was there this past weekend that you're going to be possibly spending some time with on Sunday, Austin Mack.
Oh yeah, Austin Mack. He was really good, especially coming off that injury. He hadn't done anything competitive like that in public since the fall. Had a labrum injury. Looked explosive. He's got some thickness to him. He's going to be tough to tackle in the open field. He's another guy that from 0 to 10 yards finds his top end speed quickly. Really has strong hands. I mean, the thing that was impressive was just how he could get open on that comeback route. Receivers can run flies all day on the high school level, but for him to stick his foot in the ground and turn and make that cut and catch the football was impressive. I know he's been a top of the board recruit for the Buckeyes for the entire process. So Sunday will be a big day. That's what everyone's projecting him to announce for, including myself, is for Ohio State on Sunday. And he's a guy that, ran 4.4 at Ohio State's camp last summer. So they loved him. And Coach Meyer and Coach Smith and those guys really did a great job recruiting him.
We will end it there, but as you heard, Steve, you will be in Indiana, obviously, because you live there, but you'll be there on Sunday for Mack's announcement, and like you just said, we all expect him to put on the correct hat.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it, everybody.
Steve's getting back to work. Enjoy the show, and we'll talk later. Thanks, Bucknuts.
Oh my God.